Ramirez, your host of Stand Out and Grow. I want to help your business stand out, survive, succeed, and grow. Building your business is really, really hard. And knowing what marketing and advertising tools you need to help you become successful is extremely confusing. After 30 years of working with thousands of businesses, I am here to help you make good business decisions. I want to help you understand the programs that are available to you so that you can stand out, survive, succeed, and grow. So let's get started.
Hey there, this is Kat, and I am live today. I feel very fortunate to have my special guest, Anastasia Lipske, who I have had before, and I'm so thrilled to death to have her back again to talk to us about, and I love the subject line is how podcasts, if you're doing any, they are a powerful tool. And if you're not utilizing them correctly, if you're not using them to leverage yourself, and there's so many different ways that you can do this, but the primary thing is to be able to, create yourself as an influencer, create those awareness, and then get clients. So there's so many facets of what podcasting can do. I'm a big fan. And I know that Anastasia has way more information to share with you. So if you're thinking about it, please tune in. If you are doing it, tune in. Maybe you'll learn something. And if I sound a little nasally, I'm coming off of a cold, so I apologize. And let me, without further ado, bring on Anastasia so she can talk to you guys about this. Hey! How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I love your pink intro, the color. Oh my gosh, that's mesmerizing.
It leaves that profound statement, right?
Yes, it's very calming actually right before coming on to something like this. So yeah, very nice. Absolutely. Thank you.
So Anastasia, for those that have not caught you on our previous conversation, and I will drop a link on all of the platforms so that they do, just give people a little background about who you are and what you do.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, first off, I appreciate the opportunity to do this. You have an amazing show, and it's been quite an honor to work with you and your team on bringing in some of our clients, but also just being able to learn more from you and be connected with more people. So thank you, number one, for that. So I have a very unique business in that I started this as a speaker agency for platform marketing speakers, basically people who speak for free to grow their business. In the traditional world of the speaking, you have agencies that will represent people, but what they do is they represent people who speak for a fee. And then they take, say, 20, 30% of whatever that fee is, and that's how they get paid. But you have a lot of people out there that understand the power behind speaking as a marketing tool. And if they want to get booked to speak and they're not commanding $5,000 a talk, and maybe that's not even what they want to do, because their track, if you will, is the speak to sell stage.
Yep.
They don't have representation. So they've got to do it themselves or maybe hire a VA, which is fine. But if a VA is not doing it day in and day out and they don't have a black book of groups and organizations that they've already booked people with, it's kind of like they're going to be swimming in mud. So this was just something that fell on my lap, and I discovered there was a huge need out there because it allows me to help solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small business owners, people who are utilizing this tool and recognizing that it's not the highest and best use of their time to be out there trying to find the places to speak, to, propose themselves, to do the follow-up, like all that kind of stuff. I mean, honestly, if it took one email for someone to invite themselves to be a guest on a podcast or to speak on their stage, if it took just one email and they got a yes every time, I wouldn't be in business. But the reality is it takes a lot of perseverance, and that's grunt work. And why do that if you can hire someone else to do it? So that's kind of where it started. Loving it. I love all of my clients, what they speak about. I'm very selective. I don't represent just anybody. I have to be connected to it. You know, my integrity needs to be a huge part. It is a huge part of what I do, but I know that I'm getting them in front of more people than they could ever do by themselves. So it's a win-win-win. I offer, you know, value, if you will, in the groups and the hosts that I work with and producers of shows, et cetera, because I bring carefully vetted people. So this is all going along groovy. Everything's fine. I've been at it for about 10 years. And then March of 2020 happened.
Right.
And I lost my business overnight because every single thing I booked was canceled. And
are these like live events or?
Yes, they were all in-person speaking engagements. Yep. That's what I did. That's what I did. I booked Rotary clubs, chambers, networking groups, real estate professionals. Like that was my niche. And all of them canceled.
Wow.
So I got to embrace the pivot word of 2020 and start dipping my toes into podcast guesting for my clients. So I had some who had asked me if I would book them on podcasts. And I said, no, don't have the bandwidth. You know, this is what I do. This is what I do. Staying in my lane. And then all of a sudden, many of my clients for whom this was their number one marketing tool was speaking, they're all grounded. So now they're not getting that exposure. It's their business was hit. So I thought, why not? Let me just try it. I'll do anything once, twice if I like it. So start jumping into it. And I'm in love with the podcast guesting world.
Oh, nice.
But I learned, well, for one thing, all my speakers who did embrace it, they kept their names out there. So podcast guesting and podcasting, it's all about the digital footprint. Everything is evergreen too. So someone like right now, this very moment, we might be having a new listener who's never heard your podcast before. They're listening to you and me speak right now. They like it. They're like, Kat, she's got it going on. I really like her style. I like what she's about. I want to learn more from her. Who else has she interviewed? And they're going to scroll down and they could find something from years ago. I've done it. I've been on the other end where I discover a new podcast and I literally go to episode 001.
Yeah.
Just, you know, go from there. So you have the evergreen factor, which little hint to everybody, remember, it's evergreen. So don't be talking about the event you're doing next month and that you want to sell tickets to or to someone like that, because someone might be hearing it 3 years later. Yeah, that's kind of where it started. And I love it. It helps with the Google juice, if you will, of anyone who's doing this, because there are those digital breadcrumbs everywhere we go. Backlink capabilities are off the hook. You know this. This is what you do. You know, you're behind the scenes with SEO and social media and marketing and all of that. And this is a powerful, powerful tool. So
absolutely.
My new favorite jam.
So let me just summarize that and what you just said. So to someone who's just now tuning in and they're like, oh, this sounds interesting. So basically you work with people who don't necessarily have their own show. Right. And they still want to leverage podcasting and they wanting to be guest on other people's show.
Correct. Now, some of my clients are also hosts.
Okay.
And hosts, in fact, my newest client is a host, and that's how I met him. Okay. So I was on his show. I've been bringing clients to him, and he's like, you know what? I know that it would benefit me to be guesting more.
Yeah.
So I'd rather you do it and me just be able to keep doing what I do.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So again, just to reiterate, so you have people who are guests on other people's podcasts, because if their bandwidth is limited, it's always great to be a guest on somebody and you get all that property material. You still can use it. You could still repurpose it and all that, the whole 9 yards, which is great. Because again, it is a labor intensive to create your own podcast. Plus, for some people, it's a mind block because they think, oh my God, I got to do that every week or every other week. Oh my God.
Yes.
So for them, it's hard to, conceptualize that actually does happen. And once you get going, it's pretty seamless. But it's always great to have someone on your side to help you, which is Anastasia. That's what she does. And I love it because, again, like I said, I have a podcast and I have, like you said, I have a VA who goes and scours and finds guests, that we can highlight. And to me, it's a big deal because it's like you said, it has to be a good fit. It can't just be anyone. It has to be a very good fit. You know, the people that podcast and then they take anyone just to do a podcast, you know, typically those go a little wayward because you want to make sure that the premise of your podcast and what you're doing is toward your audience. It's totally toward your audience. Because I think it would be kind of weird if I bought someone who did skincare and we talked about skincare. That's not, you know what I mean? Like,
it's off brand. It's off brand. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, and let's talk about podcasting and how that helps somebody, because, you know, I always say podcasting is very, very powerful. And it's powerful in the sense that there's several types of podcasts. There are educational podcasts, right? Educational. Yep. There's entertaining podcasts where you're entertaining people, you know, and so there's forums. There's a lot of forums out there, right? Where you're part of a forum and they you know, record this, however it is, whether it's an audio or visual only. So there's lots of different types of podcasts out there. At the end of the day, like I said, the whole purpose of it is to really create some content for your brand, right? And then when you're a guest on somebody else's podcast, it creates credibility. I can't even say that enough, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
It just creates that significance and that credibility because someone else is hosting that and they're talking to you and seeing you as the thought leader or the expert in the field that they're talking about. So it goes so far. I don't know how to tell people this. I watch and follow, you know, thought leaders in my arena, you know, and the prediction that, and we could talk about this after I say this. The prediction is that in 2 to 3 years, social media will be nothing but video because people are time starved, right? People are time starved.
Yeah.
Okay. But the same is, let's talk about that in regards to podcasting, because podcasting can be audio only, or it can be audio and video, right?
Correct. Yep.
And then what are you primarily working with, Anastasia? With people?
Well, both. I mean, and it's interesting. The statistic I've heard is that more than 70% of podcasts now are also being released visually. Yep. So, you know, people were using a visual platform usually, not always. Yeah. But I would say I've only had one podcast, no, two times I've been on a podcast where I was being interviewed and it was not, I didn't see the host. And that's very unusual. Usually, even if they're not going to release the visual, then they'll still record it via Zoom because this is about having a conversation. That's what I love about this. This is not, you know, I'm a good speaker, but it's not my favorite thing to do because I got to prepare, you know, and I got to make sure I got all my points covered and all that kind of stuff. And for some people, that is their passion, and God bless them because some of them are my clients and I love that. But for me, I'd rather chew on glass than to be speaking in front of people. Now, podcast guesting, being able to have a conversation. Yeah, that's amazing. That's truly amazing. So with that, it's just a very different type of platform. So we're allowed to have that conversation, if you will. And then each of it, you know, when we have those conversations, it then allows us to share our passion, our expertise, and do it in just this more casual way. And I was actually going to say something about that. Now I've completely lost my train of thought. So if you remember, let me know where I was going. Okay. But I did want to say a couple of things that I think some people, one of the big questions that often comes up is, should I do a podcast or should I guest? Yeah. Or should I do both? Now, you're already on the podcasting end, so you can attest to how much work is involved. Yep. So I'm going to say to anyone who's considering having your own show, I would highly, highly, highly recommend you do some guesting first. I agree. Because that gives the opportunity to be familiar with the different formats that are out there. You know, just find out what you like and what you don't like. Develop your own style, what you might be known for and what you can brand into. So that's going to be a big part of it. It's also a way that you start building these connections out there that then allow you, when you become a host, to have connections that are going to support you, either by inviting some of those hosts that you were interviewed by. You might want them, if they're a good fit for your show. It's not always reciprocal. Podcast swaps, the idea of somebody hosts someone and then they expect or request that they get on the other person's show. That happens often, but there's not always a perfect match. So people want to be very careful, because what you're talking about, making certain that you're aligned, is really important on both sides. So that's one way you can do it. But the depth that you can get when you have your own show is more. So you having your own show are connecting with the same people. Okay, you have core base over and over and over again. And it's that marketing idea of the multiple hits, the law of familiarity. The more often our names are out there, the more credibility we can build as an individual, and you can build community, build your tribe. But the challenge is, if you only are a host and you're not out there guesting, then you're still sticking. It's like you're singing the same choir every single time, or not singing, preaching the same choir, right? You get your same community, but you're just slowly, organically expanding your reach. But when you are a guest on someone else's show, all of a sudden, bam, whole new audience. And if those people resonate with you, they're going to come and check out your show. So there's benefits to both. If you are going to podcast, just know that there's a lot of work. Make certain you do it right. Perfectionism is not required, but it's actually very dangerous. But you also want to be seen as a professional. So there have been shows, coming back to that visual aspect, and I know what I was going to say about that was that initially people were using the visual platform and they would just extrapolate the audio and put it on podcast platforms. But then I think what happened was people started realizing, like, hey, we got this material. We got this visual. Why not use it? Because there are people who are visual learners. There are people that want to be there. Plus, YouTube is a huge search engine now. So people might find you on YouTube where a podcast has been shared, and then still listen to you on Spotify or Podbean or, Apple Podcast or whatever. So there's a lot of that crossover. But you want to make certain that you, as a guest, as well as the host, that you present yourself professionally. So I listened to a podcast once, vetting it for our clients, sounded really good. And then I went and I checked out the video. The host was in a t-shirt sitting on a dirty looking couch with crap all around her. And I saw that and I was like,
you're like, oh, no.
My clients are not ever going to be seen in that environment.
No.
And I feel bad because I don't think she realized how important it is. Now, we don't want to be staged, and we also get to be very fluid. Okay. Yeah. One thing that the pandemic has done many things. There's a lot of good things that's come out of it, right? One of the things that I love is the fact that we can be more authentic now than ever before. Absolutely. Once we started watching these BBC news reporters with the kids running in the room and the wife coming in and grabbing them and the cats walking across and hitting the mouse. And once those things started happening, it's almost like, they're real people.
Right.
I mean, when I watch movies, I always stay to the very, 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 very last credit, much to the chagrin of the people that just want to clean up the popcorn and they're waiting for me by myself to walk out. I see so many things that other people miss. Oh my gosh. But a lot of times you see these bloopers, right? Yeah. So you have these professional actors. They get paid gazillions of dollars to be there acting, and they muck it up all the time. And we get to laugh if you stay around for the bloopers. But when we see the movie, all we see is the perfect. And so we think that everything that they say is spot on. It just rolls off their tongue. It just feels so good. What you don't know is that it might have taken 29 tries for them to sound that good. So,
no, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
We get to be authentic. Now, a little handy hint to everybody, when you're preparing for a podcast, whether it's you as a host, but especially you as a guest, where you're really, really trying to impress someone, you're like the host, making certain you've done everything you can to control your environment is really valuable. I have a checklist. I mean, I literally take the collars off my dogs. I pick up every single toy. I close the blinds so they can't see the squirrel. I hang, thanks to Tom Schwab of Interview Valet, I've got a recording in progress. I hang on my apartment door with a little sticky note on top of it saying, do not knock, my dogs will bark. Okay. I turn off my phone.
Wow, you are prepared.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea how many things I do. But I cannot control a truck, paramedics coming right outside my window, or my dog still hearing the squirrel outside.
Oh no, yeah.
So we do the best we can, but if it happens, we get to give ourselves grace with that. So
yeah. And that's funny that you say that, because I have a client who is starting a podcast, and he started his studio in his closet, and he took a picture, and he moved it out of his closet, of course, to his office. And he said, "Is that dumb cat?" I go, "No, that's soundproof." I go, you made it soundproof. I go, "I don't know what it would look like video wise, but
right.
I go, you just made a nice soundproof studio."
Yep.
So that does happen. The other thing too, I want to add to what you just said was, when you're a guest on someone else's podcast, they're helping you move along. Talk about noise. So sorry.
We do the best we can. That's all,
And unfortunately for me, I'm not prepared. So there's nothing I can do except keep talking. It's not that loud, is it, Anastasia?
No.
You know what? I'm going to mute myself and you take over.
Okay. All right. So I completely get that. So you know what? I think her dogs did this just to prove the point. We don't know what's going to happen at any given moment. And that's when we get to give ourselves grace. And it also, I believe, brings us all closer together. This, again, comes back to one of the things I love about the podcasting is that it's just dialogue. And this whole community of the podcasting world is so giving, so loving. Everybody just wants to help each other. Everybody wants to help you be seen and be visible. And I will talk to other podcast booking agents often, and we just bear it all and say what we do, what we do differently, what we don't do differently, and we support each other. It's just this really beautiful thing. So I like this world. I feel like it is the wild, wild west. It's amazing. So, just the things that are being tossed out there. So it looks like, okay. Yeah, you want to know my thoughts? So I'll be authentic here. So I just saw a note pop up, and I usually don't look at chat because I like to look at my camera. So Kat's asking me whether people should script their podcast. Now, what I'm a little unclear on is, are you talking about the host or are you talking about the guest? And we're going to let her type that in. Both. Okay. So yes and no. What you don't want is something that just can go completely off the rails. Like you have no way of having a kind of guided conversation where you don't know what's going to come next. And there doesn't seem to be any continuity from the beginning to the end. You want ultimately a person who's listening to the podcast to feel like it's connected. And we can weave things in. You never know. I mean, it could be something about Kat's, former life when she was in third grade, or mine too. And somehow, some way it ties into all of this. We just never know. So scripting is just a matter of having some key things that you're going to want to discuss, ahead of time that you can fall back on. But I don't suggest getting too scripted, because it is meant to feel like a conversation. And that I think is what people want. When they're listening, it's because there's this relatability. They're learning something, but they also like that the kind of more casual conversation, if you will, instead of feeling like it's been read. I have been on shows when I was interviewed, and the host would just go down my list of questions. Now, I always recommend, if you are going to propose yourself to be on a show, that you have sample questions that you can give to the host ahead of time. because for two reasons. One, the primary reason is you want to give them a sense of what you talk about.
Right.
The key, most important things that you talk about. It also can be a starting point for the host to work from. But the hope is that every interview you do, you're not going to get asked the same 10 questions, because if so, who's going to want to hear from me again? The moment they see me on another podcast, they're going to be like, oh, nope, she says the same thing every time. We don't want that, right? So
right.
you want to have that available for your host when you are sharing it. And then the host can use it. Well, I feel like it's merely guidelines. I feel like, whatever Jack, they're merely guidelines. Oh my gosh. Captain Black Jack Black, whatever. Yeah. I'm imagining these guys in this scene. I'm just totally choking on which one it is. Yeah. Captain Barbosa. They're merely guidelines. But you start with them. Yep. You don't want to have a blank slate, because at any moment also, it's so easy to get distracted and lose your train of thought.
Absolutely.
I lost it for a moment when I started talking about the video and going to audio, and ultimately I was able to come back, but we might forget. And sometimes you get a distraction, like your dogs are barking, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, when are they going to stop? And then you forget where you are.
Yep. So, okay, let me expand on this, because I actually had a client one time was talking to me how he was going to be guesting on people's podcasts, and he was perfecting his pitch. I'm like, oh, nobody wants you to pitch on their podcast. I'm like, are you sure you're saying this right? Are you sure you're relating this to the right thing? I go, you're going to be on people's podcasts and you're trying to perfect your pitch. I go, nobody wants you to pitch. No, that's not how podcasts work. And so basically what I did was I guided him to more of like entrepreneur pitch, where they actually expect you to pitch, right? It's a platform, and not podcasts where you pitch. And I'm like, that's the wrong lane, right?
Mm-hmm.
The wrong lane. So that's another thing I think that, I take for granted, maybe not knowing that other people don't understand. Again, the whole purpose of a podcast and the platform and what it's there to do is to, again, as Anastasia said earlier, is to bring light to who is your business, help you educate that future customer, their future client. And then you're really, when you're a guest, you're really increasing that momentum because you're on someone else's audience, someone else's platform. And you never know, they might need your service. You never know. And I love that last part about it, because it is someone else's audience that you're tapping into. Mm-hmm. And it's a really a win-win situation, because the host is really entertaining and educating their audience, and they bring you in. And then for you're tapping into a new audience that maybe would have never thought about you, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It's new exposure all the time.
Yeah. So
but you have to use it. This is the thing. Yes. You have to use it. Yeah. And that's one of the, the crimes. So first off, the gentleman that you were just speaking of, that kind of hurts hearing that, just because I'm thinking like, no, you're just missing it. You're missing it. What, like, I'm a huge believer in relationship building.
Yep.
That this is what it's all about. I mean, you and I, even from the first time we talked, like, you've already connected me with somebody who he's been amazing, and he's booked clients of mine, and I'm going to be on a show, and like, I just really like him, like all these kinds of things comes from connection. Yeah. But you have to have that integrity in the relationship, that you're not going into it like, what's in it for me, but rather, how can I bless the host? How can I bless the listeners by giving full value and not even thinking for a moment about whether I'm going to get clients as a result of this? People are either going to resonate with me or they're not.
Right.
And there's nothing I can do about it. If I come from a space of my heart and I'm simply sharing my expertise, my passion, and I'm doing it with integrity to bless, not to take, in essence, it all works out. But I also have my part in it, in what I need to do afterwards. So speaking of which, this is an example of something I always like to do. Mm-hmm. If it's okay with you, and I would assume so because you're all about visibility, I want to take a quick screenshot of the two of us because I want to share this, okay, on social media. So we'll just both smile. Okay, so one thing I want to say is that sometimes you have shows that are live. Sometimes you have shows that you do the interview and then maybe it airs within a day or two. Other times it might be 6 months down the road before it actually is aired. I always take a screenshot, and the day of the actual interview, I share this screenshot, even though I don't have a link to the interview, to start building excitement about that episode. And I will be tagging you. One thing that people also forget a lot of times, they forget to not only tag the host, but they also forget to tag if there's a page related to the host. So sometimes, and right now I'm only talking LinkedIn because that's kind of my jam, so I can't speak specifically for the other social media channels. I'm sure it's a similar type of a thing, but LinkedIn, when I'm in there, I'm going to be looking to see what business pages you might have, and I'm going to tag them as well. But I'm going to build up interest and bring people to check out your show, even though I'm not on it yet, so that they can see that. That's just one thing that you can do to help start that. Then making certain that when it is aired, you are sharing it socially, that I add every one of them to my e-newsletter where I have spoken before, so that the people on my e-list, they're continually reminded that I'm out there looking for opportunities to use my voice. And I always ask, do you know a podcast you think I'd be a great fit for? Please let me know. I'm a member of Innovation Women. They've got 18,000 people on their e-list. I get to promote everything that I've been on. So when I have the link to this show, I will be sharing that. And this show will be promoted to 18,000 people. These are just some of the things that I will do with each and every episode that I'm on. So if a person gets on an episode and then they don't do anything with it, they don't put, and I also put it on my profile on my site. So it's permanently housed there too. So there's all these different places where I am sharing it to get more exposure for both you, Kat, as a host, and me, and get that Google juice growing, because this is how we do it.
Absolutely.
If you don't, then you're like throwing money out the window as far as I'm concerned, and visibility.
Yeah, you just take it to the next level, because that's one of the things that we do is whenever I'm on somebody's podcast, they'll share all the, let's say, the graphics that they created for it. Right.
Yeah.
And then I'll share those and I'll post them. I have no problem, because it's a win-win, right?
Yes.
And then the same afterwards is, I always say, let me know when you release it. I'll share it. I'll push it out there. So to me, it's like you said, it's a community. It's about helping each other. And how does this make sense? So it's a good fit and it's a win-win for everyone, right?
Right. Yep.
So how does everybody get a hold of you?
Well, the easiest way is actually to go to a landing page that I've created, and I highly recommend that everyone have one themselves. And you can, if you want, tag it to each individual show. I don't bother with that. I have one space. It's just accessspeakers.biz, biz/thank you. So all you really have to remember is my business name, .biz/thank you. If you go in there, you will have the opportunity to get a free ebook on speaking to grow your business. I am happy also, basically, when people ask for my ebook, I always follow up with them. I thank them. And at that point, if anyone is interested in doing, like a free mini consultation with me, because I consult with people too. I don't represent, I'm not a good fit for everybody for representation. But I sure can help them through my consulting. So that's more a matter of just learning how I can help you better brand yourself, get out there more, how to get yourself booked, what to do with it after you get booked, and best practices on how to be the type of guest that a host actually wants to have back and refer to others. So it's a pretty simple thing. So I share that because I feel like right now I'm kind of demonstrating for everyone what I would want them to do too. Have that page ahead of time, and it can be an unpublished page, But if anybody goes in there, that's where all your contact information is. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. Please, if you do reach out, say something, tell me that you heard me on Kat's show. I would really appreciate that. And, I'm always happy to connect and help people however I can. Service is my love language, and it's what I love to do. And it's what makes me keep going. When I wake up in the morning, I know that I can be of value to other people. And so if I have the opportunity to do that for your listeners, it would honor me.
Yeah. And that's awesome. And again, if you are tuning in or you're catching this at a replay, we're talking about the power of podcasting or guest podcasting. It really is a great way to grow your business and to create more content, without you doing all the work, Yep. So it is a great avenue for those of you who really want to put yourself out there as an expert or a thought leader or just grow your business, period. Right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Anastasia, for joining me today.
I so appreciate it. It's been an honor.
Absolutely. And we'll have you on again.
Thank you.
Oops. Thank you for joining me on today's show of Stand Out and Grow. I hope that this was beneficial to you. Please, please, please. And drop me a comment, drop me a line. Let me know what your thoughts are on the show. I'll share. Again, I'll tag Anastasia on all the posts and get you connected. I would say reach out to her because what a great opportunity to find out more about guest podcasting, right? Yeah. And as I always leave our show, you got this. Until next time, you got this.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Stand Out and Grow. Check out all the notes and links at www.standoutandgrow.com. I am so thankful to you for helping this show continue to grow. I want to keep producing content that you want to hear, so please leave me some feedback. I look forward to bringing you more resources and information to help your business stand out and grow. Please follow us on social media and make sure you follow this podcast so you can learn more about helping your business stand out, survive, succeed, and grow. Until next time, you got this. Advertise helps businesses stand out and grow with affordable advertising options. We will help you make good business decisions so you can save money and not just throw it against the wall to see if it sticks. Get your free strategic advertising analysis today so you can see the opportunities to stand out and grow your business. Visit www.standoutandgrow.com offers page to learn more.